In the Philippines, paying for electricity means dealing with some of the highest and most oppressive power rates anywhere in Asia. When the monthly bill consistently outpaces wage growth, people look for loopholes. For thousands of homeowners, that loophole was building their own solar power systems from scratch. A few years ago, you could log online, order the necessary parts, and have everything delivered straight to your door, no middleman required. Homeowners were taking matters into their own hands, bolting panels to their roofs and wiring up batteries to bypass the traditional grid entirely. This grassroots adoption became a vital financial lifeline. People were actively boycotting an unaffordable, monopolized energy market by generating their own power. Then, exactly as this decentralized movement reached critical mass, the Department of Trade and Industry stepped in. The Bureau of Philippine Standards drafted a new set of regulations, closing off that open online market and replacing it with a heavily gated, government-controlled environment. The announcement immediately stalled the momentum of the DIY community. People who were halfway through their builds suddenly found themselves operating in a legal gray area. By prioritizing strict certification over ease of access, the state effectively dismantled the primary tool for energy independence that was actually within reach of the average homeowner. The new rules leave almost zero margin for error. The mandate casts a net over virtually every essential piece of hardware required to capture and store sunlight. The restrictions specifically target the solar panels, inverters, battery storage units, charge controllers, and photovoltaic cables. Under these finalized guidelines, every single one of those items must legally bear an official PS or ICC safety mark to prove it passed government inspection. Without those exact stamps of approval, the components cannot legally enter the country, nor can they be sold in the local market. This creates an enormous bottleneck at the source. Consumers are cut off from cheap international suppliers and forced to buy from a highly concentrated, heavily regulated pool of approved local vendors. Procuring the certified hardware is only half the friction. The government now mandates that anyone mounting panels on a residential roof must secure a formal building permit before they can even begin construction. What used to be a weekend plug-and-play project for a handy homeowner now requires navigating the local engineering office. That single requirement triggers a cascade of red tape, submitting architectural plans, scheduling mandatory municipal inspections, and waiting through weeks of delays. When the administrative friction outweighs the energy savings, the incentive to build vanishes. Faced with endless paperwork, a massive segment of potential adopters simply gives up. Look outside the Philippine borders, and the global approach to residential renewable energy operates on an entirely different logic. In places like Australia, the government actively treats suburban rooftops as an essential extension of the national power grid. Instead of putting up regulatory walls, they deploy targeted grants and direct subsidies designed specifically to absorb the heavy upfront cost of the hardware for the consumer. They even provide a mechanical incentive. Citizens there are encouraged to export their surplus daytime power back into the public grid, turning a residential home into a profitable asset. The policy paradox is sharp. Progressive nations pay their citizens to accelerate the clean energy transition, while the Philippines heavily taxes the time and money of anyone trying to do the exact same thing. Zooming out across the archipelago, the long-term arithmetic of this intervention becomes clear. The DTI's stated goal of standardizing electrical safety carries a high trade-off, a market where growth is stifled and residential rooftops remain empty. The regulations aggressively penalize the exact demographic of proactive, middle-class Filipinos who were actively, privately solving the country's rolling energy crisis. By making it exceedingly difficult to build and install independent systems, the state has dramatically slowed the local transition to renewable power. In a global race toward grid independence, bureaucratic protectionism serves as a heavy anchor, guaranteeing the country falls further behind.